Hi, I'm Kate Sherritt from Ashford, and today I'd like to show you how to wind a warp for your table loom or Katie loom. Of course, there's many ways you can wind a warp. The way I like to do it is to use your warping frame and have two crosses, a threading cross and a rattle cross. I'm not going to go into great detail about weaving terms or calculating sets, but if you are a newbie to weaving, I would recommend you read the Ashford Book of Weaving on the 4-shaft loom. It's a great book for beginners. And also have a look on our website. We've got the Learn to Weave booklets and they've got lots of basic information there for you. So before we begin, let's just make sure we're organised, and I'll need some scrap yarn, my warping frame, the yarn I'm going to use for my warp, ruler, tape measure, and some ties. Okay, today I'm going to be using some 8x2 cotton, and I have decided that I want to do an 8-inch wide warp in my 8x2 cotton, and I've calculated the set to be 20 ends per inch. So we're going to need, at 20 ends per inch, and it's 8 inches wide, we're going to need 160 ends. Okay, and I'd like to make my warp 3 meters long. So what I'm going to do to start is I'm just going to take a piece of scrap yarn that I've already measured, and it's about 3 meters long, and we're just going to tie it onto the warping frame as a bit of a template. So just tie a loop in the end, and we're just going to follow it around, and you just work out which way to go for the right length of your warp. So you can see that I've already done this, but if you have to make it longer, you can go back and forth across here to get the right length. The only thing you need to remember is to be coming around the collecting pegs, finishing at the end peg. So we've got the start peg here, around, finishing at the end peg. This is just going to act as a bit of a template so that we can follow it as we wind our warp. So now you take your yarn. Lazy Kate's always handy to put it on so that it doesn't roll around the floor. Okay, now take your yarn, and we're just going to tie a loop, a loose loop, that will just slip over the start peg. So as we come to the first lot of pegs, this is where our threading cross is going to be. So in this area here, we would like every single thread to be crossed. This is going to keep our threads in the perfect order when we go to thread our heddles later on our table loom. Now the rattle cross is a wee bit different because the spaces in our rattle are a 1/2 inch wide, and we're doing 20 ends per inch. So in this area, we're only going to cross every 10th thread. 10 threads for a 1/2 inch equals 20 ends per inch. And we just follow it around. Now remember to keep an even tension on your yarn as you go, and just push down the threads. So on the threading cross, we're going to cross every single thread. This is going to keep our threads in order. Now when we get to the 10th thread, so you can see here we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So you can see we've got 10 threads here now. So when I come back, I'm going to start the cross on the rattle cross. So as we come around this time, we're going to cross. So now we're going to do another group of 10 threads. Don't worry about what happens here. That's always going to end up a little bit messy. But you do want to keep your crosses tidy on your rattle cross and your threading cross. Now I find it much more comfortable to hang your warping frame up on the wall and wind it there. So remember to keep an even tension as you wind, and you can easily keep track of how many ends you've done just by counting the groups in the Rattle Cross. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So there are warpers wound. And to finish it, all we're going to do is take a loose loop and tie it in there and over the end. Now you'd use the same thing if you were changing colours in your warp. Just do a loose loop, because you'll see when we go to tie it off, if you've got it tight around this peg, it's going to be impossible to get the tie through. And let's cut that. So now you've wound your warp, and all we have to do is secure the warp before we take it off the frame. So safety first. I like to use these ties that come with our rattle kit. It's just stretchy fabric cord, which works really nicely. We're going to have to secure our warp and our crosses, both the threading cross and the rattle cross, and the start and the end. And also we'll throw in a couple of chokes in the middle just in case. So to secure our threading cross, take a length of your tie, and we're going to thread it down through one side of the cross. Now don't worry if you get your template scrap yarn in there. And we're going to come back up the other side. Okay, and then if you just check that you've got it through exactly there. And that's all you need to do to secure your cross. Those threads are not going anywhere. Okay, so we'll do the same for the rattle cross. We're going to go down one side and up the other side, and then we're just going to check that we've got them all. Looks good to me, and we'll just tie that in a wee half hitch, and we'll do the same on the start peg, straight down and through. This is where you find tying the loose loops come in handy. Half hitch on there. And on the end peg, the same. And I'll just take some of my scrap yarn, a couple of bits of that, to tie as chokes. Now you want to put chokes along the length of your warp, particularly if you have a long warp. This is just going to keep all your threads at the same tension and not let any slip this way or that way. Now our warp is secure, so now we're ready to take the warp off the frame. So we're just going to start at the start peg, and then we're going to chain, just like crochet, chain stitch it up so it's nice and tidy and ready to go on to our loom. So if we just take off the start peg and put our hand through the loop, and we're just going to take it off. Now you don't need to worry about your threading crosses because they're all secure, and we're just going to chain, 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 And just chain up to just before the rattle cross, and then lift it off. And there is your warp, safe and secure, ready to go onto your table loom.